Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 1 of my new podcast that I've started up today. It's called What's the Point? I started this podcast because I've always had an affinity for all things sports. I've always been a lover of all things sports related. As you can see, as from representing right now, I'm showing off what I really do care about, which is football, what we call it around the world. I know people in North America have a different saying for that, but really, I've always had an affinity for that, and I wanted to bind that with my love for data, or at least my interest for data. And I was able to create this. What this podcast really is just a showcasing of what you can use data science and data analytics for, and how we can actually uncover things that you might not have thought of previously, especially when it comes to having discussions around sports. So really, this is going to be my way of showing that and showcasing those two different sides. So really, I hope you guys enjoy it and let me know what you get out of this experience or these episodes, and tell me what you would like me to add, if there's anything you would like me to add, or things that you don't think are necessary to the episode. It's a learning experience. This is my first episode. I'm putting a lot on the line here, but I'm hoping that it'll be something at least interesting for yourselves, but if not, it's interesting for me. But without further ado, let's get into the first topic. So the way I like to do this, or I think the way I will be going around or about doing these, is I've set up a format, right? So that way it's a little bit more uniform and you have what to expect sort of idea behind the podcast. So of course I do have my first topic, but that's not really how I want to have everything just go off of, because things can get derailed really easily. So instead, what I decided is to create a format, something that's a little bit more structured, that gives us a bit more of a roadmap for what we're looking for, and just also have a lot of fun asking the questions along the way, or even finding interesting things along the way. So I'm always going to be finding a different question, sports related, right, that can sort of be tested in a comparative way. And I want to do this over a 5-year period, just that we give it an even fix. And because if you look at it from a data science perspective, so many things that can be added as variables to maybe change what you might assume the outcome may be, and also alters the actual, because this is really observing of sort of things happening, and you're just recording it as well as sort of sifting through the data and trying to make sense of it. So by keeping the time limit to 5 years, I feel like that's going to make it a little bit easy for us to just take a little snapshot of everything. So like I said, of course I gave you guys a nice little backdrop, but I want to jump into this topic absolutely. So what I love the most, and with all my heart, aside from the air I breathe, the people in my life, is Arsenal Football Club. I've loved this club with a passion for many years now, and one question always came up when I was about say 9, 10, or even 11 years old, but not even then, probably a little further on as well, was the coming of Cristiano Ronaldo. Such a huge figure in football as we know today, having broken the records he's broken, Mr. Champions League, how many goals has he scored, incredible impact to the game of soccer. But really what I want to get into is sort of something we've all talked about as fans, especially those in football, and that's really what would have happened back then in 2003 if Cristiano Ronaldo actually signed for Arsenal and not for Manchester United. I know, we're probably thinking, what the hell are you talking about? There's no way he would have signed for Arsenal. But if we can rewind the clock, and let's talk a little bit about Cristiano Ronaldo as a young boy growing up in Portugal. So I know for a fact that he started his journey off just as any other young kid would in, any place around the world, with big hopes and dreams, thinking, well, maybe one day he could make his mark on the pitch. Obviously coming from a very poor location in, I guess it was called Madeira, Portugal, with a working mother, working class family. He didn't really have much to go off of. So he really drew on the idea that his parents or his family were going to need him to be a big breadwinner or someone who's going to bring a lot back for them. He had siblings as well, but there was a lot of onus of that, because you can see in the way he sort of works himself as well as getting prepared for his games that he has a lot of his childhood sort of instilled in that and how he looks at the world. That work ethic translated for Cristiano Ronaldo, especially when it came to football. He was flashy, he could cover the pitch end to end, and he was nothing but an incredible athlete that you would have observed from any corner of the pitch. He was flashy enough to make any other opponent quiver in their boots and actually make everyone stand up and applaud. And that was at a young age. He was definitely killing people down there in Portugal. But flash forward to, let's say, 2002, 2003, where a 17, 18-year-old Cristiano Ronaldo is taking numbers of shirts at Sporting Lisbon, killing other folks, showing that he's one of the most elite young ballers in the world, if not in Europe alone. And along comes two of the most influential people you would imagine to English football, actually even just to the game of soccer as a whole. And that is a Sir Alex Ferguson and an Arsene Wenger, whom to their own credit were in the throes of battle in England, going for the number one spot, where Man United had such a huge reign throughout the late 90s with, you know, David Beckham, Gary Neville and the lot, Peter Schmeichel taking on the double and doing wonders at Champions League. But then Arsene Wenger comes in very soon after with a new style of football, a new way to take a look at the English game and transforming it to a lot more close playing, a lot more passing, a lot more flair to the football as opposed to just kicking the ball over and running. So Arsene Wenger really became that thorn in the side of Sir Alex Ferguson. So when we think about 2003, 2004, we're really thinking about two managers in pursuit really of perfection, trying to add to their cabinet. By this time, Arsenal has just won the Premier League themselves, creating the Invincibles, in and of itself a testament to Arsene Wenger's change of pace, his innovation to the game, because no other team was able to penetrate that. But Man United realized that they need to make adjustments. They need to play the game differently. They need a different dynamic. And that's where we get to Lisbon, where a young 17, 18-year-old Cristiano Ronaldo is playing a game against Man United. But prior to that game, he had met with Arsene Wenger in private, with his family in attendance, in which Arsene Wenger was actually speaking to Cristiano Ronaldo, having the conversation about what his next steps should be, about making that move to the English Premier League, into the big stage, and what it would mean for him to be playing in England, especially in London. And of course, Ronaldo did give it some thought, but you know, as we understand, the moment he had that conversation with Sir Alex Ferguson after that Champions League early draw between Man United and Sporting Lisbon in early 2003, the rest is history. But what we can do now with the power of data science is actually flip that on its head and actually take a look and see what would have happened if Cristiano Ronaldo had decided against signing with Man United and instead opted to stick with Wenger, deciding that he wanted to take his talents to Highbury. So the way we took a look at this experiment is to break it down into something that's a little bit more measurable. So this analysis is going to focus on the period between 2003 to 2008, whereby which we saw a lot of changes between Man United and Arsenal, who were both in contention for the top spot in the Premier League as well as the Champions League. But I want to focus more so on what Ronaldo's impact would have probably been for Arsenal, and really it's a testament to how much of a change and revolution Ronaldo brought to the English game as a whole. So when we start off in 2003, Arsene Wenger has Arsenal set up in such a way that, you know, everything is based off of short form passing. We have a few playmakers such as Thierry Henry, Dennis Bergkamp, Robert Pires, Alexander Hleb, who are all breaking through the ranks, making very, very strong passes to the exterior, crossing through out the wings, and crashing into the box. We also have Thierry Henry taking it on himself many times, showing his individual skill and class, dribbling between 2 to 3 players, making a pass and taking a corner, or maybe even getting the ball in the bottom of the net. Definitely a draw up that we'd seen time and time again for Arsenal, and loved for it, because they made it to the Mount Rushmore, I could say, proverbially, by hitting that undefeated season firmly at the beginning of this, at that 2003-2004 season. So Arsenal played a 4-4-2 to 4-3-3 hybrid system, and that was something that actually was interesting to Ronaldo in and of itself when they had the conversation, because that was something that he made certain of wanting to accommodate for the fact that Ronaldo is definitely someone with pace, someone who needs the ball in those wide areas so that he can make the cross in when need be, or cut in and go for the shot, because that was his real talent, his pace, his ability to change direction at a moment's notice, and also see the pass from a mile away before anyone else could. So let's take a look actually at the statistical background. So we understand that Arsenal in the 2003-2004 scored 90 points by the end of the league, scored a total of 73 goals, and obviously ended that season on top. Now, if we actually take a look at what the next 2-3 seasons were, it's actually not so great, because we have a dominant Chelsea and Man United making a rush in, where you have people like Didier Drogba as well as Ruud van Nistelrooy really making an impact in the Premier League through their goal scoring as well. 2004-2005, Arsenal ends with 83 points, 7 points below their previous year. They scored more goals, 87 points, with Thierry Henry coming in close for that golden boot, and ending their position second. 2005, 2006, and 2006-2007, both ending those at the fourth position, and 2007-2008, Arsenal ended with only 74 goals and in third position. But when we decide to add Cristiano Ronaldo to the mix, and what he's actually able to do in terms of goals as well as assists, things change. By doing a little bit of calculation, you're able to take we were able to take into consideration the fact that he's going to be contributing an enormous amount of goals because of what he did for Man United, moving on from that 2003 to 2004 season, but as well as from that 2006 to 2008 season. Those last 2 years is where Cristiano Ronaldo really came into his own, as he had increased in pace, his aerial threat was unmatched, and his ability to connect the last pass whenever it was flung was very lethal. He had just honed his skills and really had taken things up a notch. So when we take a look at what Ronaldo's impact would have been if he had joined Arsenal, and doing the calculations, of course we can say 03-04 we still would have been champions, or Arsenal still would have been champions, so that wouldn't have changed much. But from 04-05, we would have come up, we would have stayed at second, perhaps maybe even challenged for the first. It would have gone down to the wire. The 05-06, we would be third, which is up from fourth, as well as in the 06-07, up from fourth to third. But then really what we are saying in the 07-08 is, with someone like Cristiano Ronaldo, we could go from third to maybe even possibly first place, if not a confident second. That's really to show the confidence, or the at least improved performance Ronaldo can contribute to any team, let alone Arsenal. But the big influence of Ronaldo didn't extend to just that. It was really just, as well as what I had mentioned earlier, his style, the way he attacked the ball, the way he would cut in to make sure he's ready for that last pass coming in from any midfield or any fullback. So he would obviously make Arsenal shift to more direct attacking play, as opposed to a slower build-up holding play that Wenger was much more used to, an enhanced counter-attacking threat because of his pace. The man was one of the fastest people in the Premier League at that time, up until that point, recorded on those speed guns, if you may. I think he was among the top 5 for a very long time. Modified role for existing forwards, especially with someone like Thierry Henry. That threat, bringing those two together, would have been incredible. There's nothing that you could have denied of Arsenal at that point. If you thought Thierry Henry working together with Cristiano Ronaldo on the wing, it would have been a match made in heaven. Now the real reality is how he would have just transitioned all of the existing players of the squad, because it's very evident that Ronaldo's goal contributions far exceeded what any of the other players in his position would be able to do. If we take into consideration what Alexander Hleb contributed in terms of goals for the 2007-2008 season, Cristiano Ronaldo was able to match that. He was also able to match and surpass Adebayor's assists and goals, as well as Robin van Persie's assists and goals. Albeit that two of those players were still growing into their roles in Arsenal and hadn't yet to achieve significance, in the squad. In talking with Van Persie and Adebayor, Alexander Hleb had already been at the club for long enough, and round about the same time that Cristiano Ronaldo had also been in Man United. So this does show a lot more as to how Cristiano Ronaldo could contribute, both with assists as well as goals, being very dynamic, and that's within one season. I think the big thing to take away from this was really that Cristiano Ronaldo definitely could favorably make Arsenal better if the idea really had panned out in that way. But would we say that he was marginally better, or would we say that he was extremely world-shatteringly better for Arsenal? Who's to know? The numbers don't really give us a clear enough answer, because we only are taking the last 5 years, or a 5-year brief stint, and we also have to take into consideration a lot of other factors, namely the teams that you play and their performances on the day. Because even though we can take a look at how well these teams, especially Arsenal or Man United, performed, it's also something to take into consideration. How did the other teams actually perform that day? Their mentality. These were all factors that would be too difficult to quantify, at least at this moment, especially for this podcast, but definitely gave me something interesting to think about, because now I understand that really, of course, you are thinking the one player might have such a huge influence and contribute so much to the overall success of your team. But really, when you think about it, there's a lot more that goes into it. Ronaldo alone might not really made much of a difference for the Invincibles, and in actual fact made it a lot more difficult for them to retain points, because for where he didn't really do so well is in defense, because he was a very ball dominant player who liked to stretch the length of the pitch and stay very far forward as much as possible in order to get that advantage against the defender. But when it came to getting back on time and making sure he's there to cover at least for a fullback, he really struggled with that for many of the years that he was at Man United. And of course, once he moved to Real Madrid and subsequently to Juventus, that wasn't necessarily something that he'd need to worry about, because Ronaldo being Ronaldo, the team was designed around him. So in actual fact, you're dealing with a player so valuable that your team itself will need to change the way it actually runs in order to accommodate his style of play, which isn't such a bad problem. But at the same time, if you know you're playing in a league or a conference or something like that, where there are other people who are very, clinical in the box and can punish you at a moment's notice, it doesn't help you to have someone who isn't willing to get back, and otherwise it is 10-9 in every situation on a counter-attack. So I'd have to say that I would personally still have Cristiano Ronaldo added to the Arsenal roster. It would have been incredible to see him at Highbury. I don't believe that they would have had any difference to his performance overall, and in fact probably would have put him on an equal footing, if not higher, from where he ended up. We have the likes of Thierry Henry, Fabregas, Seb himself, and many others who've gone on to even bigger clubs after Arsenal. So I don't think there was anything to the fact that if he had stayed or gone to Arsenal, maybe he wouldn't have seen himself in Real Madrid. But I believe that's probably not the case at all. His destiny was always going to be Los Blancos. It's the best club in the world, so of course they're going to get the best players in the world. Doesn't matter what team they're at, it's just about what number they're willing to pay. So at the end of the day, guys, I feel like it's your opportunity to give me your feedback. Let me know what you think. Does this make any sense? Am I just talking gibberish? Let me know if there's anything that I should have spoken about that I didn't really get into. Maybe comparing him to other wingers or other people in the league whilst he was there, or even just thinking about what he looked like compared to other wingers around the world or top wingers around the world, because that is something maybe to even add to the discussion of who really was that significant of a player, because maybe we think Ronaldo is the be all end all, but there could have been other players around the world that I'm maybe unaware of, probably not, but I want to give the audience the opportunity to let me know. So without further ado, thank you so much for listening in and watching in on the first episode of What's the Point? Cristiano Ronaldo. I really do hope you get to see this and understand that it's coming from a good place. I definitely don't want any haters, Man United haters, in my comments letting me know that they didn't really appreciate this rendition. It's just all about the exercise, really. So thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for watching. I hope to see you guys next week for another episode of What's the Point. Take care.